Godayan, hey everyone, it's Eric, and it is time for the Icelandic thing of the day. I thought today that I would talk a little bit about the actual grammar of Icelandic, and in particular talk about some of the verbs. So instead of just talking about some particularly interesting sentence that I heard in class today, I thought it'd be interesting to actually talk about the way that these things are formed and some of the underlying mechanics of the language. So, and it's also useful because, to be honest, that's the stuff I'm having to study a lot for quizzes this week. So that's what today's video is about. I'm going to talk about weak verbs in particular, and maybe I'll talk about strong verbs tomorrow. So there are 5 classes of verbs in Icelandic. 2 are weak, 3 are strong. The difference, if you don't know the difference between those two things, a weak verb, it makes all of its changes by adding suffixes onto the end of the word, by changing the endings. And a strong verb makes its changes by doing internal vowel shifts. So one way, we have this in English. So a weak verb is something like walk, to walk, which when in the past tense is walked. So the way you know the difference is that we add on that ed at the end of walked. Whereas a strong verb is something like run. We say run, ran. The past tense is formed by changing the vowel rather than by saying runned, which is, of course, how little kids who are still learning the rules of the language, they will always say runned, because they pick up those mechanical rules before they learn the exceptions. In this case, that one of these verbs is strong and one of them is weak. So Icelandic has the same thing going on. So let's look at 2 of them here. So here we have að elda, which is a class 1 verb, weak verb, to cook. And over here we have að keyra, which is a class 2 weak verb, which is to drive. So these are both weak, as I said. They accomplish their various changes through adding suffixes to the ends of the words rather than by doing internal vowel shifts. Occasionally you'll find that there are places where there are internal vowel shifts, but that's due to other reasons. Namely, as I am frustrated with constantly, you can't have an A and a UM ending, or a U ending at all in Icelandic. The two don't play well with each other. The A always changes to an O with an umlaut. Anyway, that's probably more than you care to know at this point. So let's look at the paradigm. All right, so class 1, að elda. So here we have a breakdown of the paradigm. This is the present tense. This is the past tense. So ég, þú, hann, hún, það, við, þið, þeir, þær, thou, þoi. Those are the personal pronouns in Icelandic. So that's I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all. And then the plural, the third person plural, depends on the gender of what you're talking about. So if you're talking about a group of masculine nouns or a group of men, then þeir. If you're talking about a group of feminine nouns or a group of women, þær. And if you are talking about a group of neuter nouns, then þoi. So the base form is elda. So it is ég elda, þú eldar, hann, hún, það eldar, við eldum, þið eldið, and þeir, þær, thou elda. So the endings here are a, ar, ar. The second and third person are the same. Ith, and a. The and ith are very distinctive. They show up that way in pretty much all classes for the first person plural we and the second person plural y'all. So that's in the present tense. In the past tense, we get what's called a dental suffix, which, again, we do the same thing in English, walked. The ed, that's a dental suffix at the end. So, eldavi, eldavir, eldavi, eldadum, elduduth, elduduth, duduth, and elduthu. So again, the endings here are the, their, the. You see that things change in the past tense, so that now the first person and the third person are the same, and it's the second person that is changed. Thum, which still has that un. Thuth, which it has a u instead of an I, but it still ends in the eth character. And thu, which isn't anything like an A, but what are you going to do? Then we have class 2. Now, class 2 is different because instead of it directly mimicking the first person singular, instead of looking exactly like the infinitive, you see that elda and elda are the same here. We have afkera, and we have ye keri, so it turns to an I. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of ways to like just figure this out from the word itself. You sort of have to just learn it, as Jon Simon says. So, ye keri, thu kerir, han, hun, thou, thath, keri, vith kerum, thith kerith, and there, thire, and thou, thoi, kera. That AU is an oi sound as opposed to an ow sound like we're used to in English. Terribly frustrating. Horrible. The past tense of class 2 weak verbs is more complicated because the dental suffix you use changes based on the consonant that the stem ends with. So by stem, here, that's the part that doesn't change as the words change. So we have here, kera is the infinitive, the stem is care. So that ends in R, and as a consequence of that, the dental suffix used is the, just like over here in elda. Anything that ends with an R, F, or a G uses eth. Anything that ends in im, in, l, or eth uses a D. And anything that ends in T, S, K, P, or D goes to a T. So those are your 3 dental suffixes, th, d, and t. So we have ye kerði, thu kerðir, han, hun, thath kerði, vith kerðum, thi kerðuth. The double N is crazy. And then there, thire, and thoi, kerðu. So if we're looking at a word like that where the stem ends in a T, for example, like lista, then that's going to go into a T because the stem lice ends in S. So that is leisti, leistir, leisti, leistum, leistuth, and leistu. And if we have something that ends in an in, like the word gondi, gonda is the verb. We have gondi, gondir, gondi, gondum, gonduth, and gondu. So with class 2, it's also very regular, but there are these 3 different dental suffixes. It could be any of them just based on the consonant. So it's mostly just a matter of you have to memorize what consonants go with what dental suffixes, and then from there it's pretty simple. The strong verbs, on the other hand, are much crazier, and so maybe I'll talk about those in my video tomorrow. Right now we are about 50 hours out from getting on the plane to Iceland, so yeah, it should be really exciting. I'm looking forward to doing these videos from Reykjavik, so I'll keep you posted on what's going on with that. Hope you enjoyed the video, and sjáumst!